name is Joel Andre Rakesh Thomas. And I have a son named Rocky Tilo Carter Thomas.
Mhm.
And I love him very much. I want him to know that. And I love my grandma very much. Judy Pal Jones. That's her name. I would never do something like that. Not intentionally. Not purposely.
Can you tell me a little bit about your son? How old is he?
He's 10 years old.
And I know you love him dearly, so you do everything right to protect him.
Yes, everything. I would do anything. I would give my life for him. I would give the last meal in the world for him. So he wouldn't have to go starve. I would give the clothes off my back for him. So he would never have to feel one little bit of coldness. That's my son. Isn't that what a father's supposed to do?
It is.
And there's a lot going on in the world that people don't know about. Lots of things, and it makes other people look crazy or psychotic, or it's just hard to understand. And I don't know how to best explain it. We would need more than 26 minutes.
I understand. Well, what do you want to start first? We can use this time wisely and help get you back home and get your story out there. Let people know what's going on.
It all started when I got in a relationship with a woman named Casey Danae Dole.
Okay.
And excuse me, they're being loud.
Great.
And we had a son together. And I remember when he was born, it wasn't long after. He was super smart. He was a beautiful baby. Just a little baby. It was probably about a year and a half ago. I still have the pictures on my phone. That he would stand tall, and I call him my Tilo man, a little tough Tilo man. And he looked so big. He wasn't ever afraid of anything. And I told him that's what you should always be. Don't be afraid if you got God. If you have God, you don't have nothing to be afraid of, son. Nothing. He depended on me. I got sent away to Oklahoma for years to finish out probation. And I finally finished probation, and I was happy, and so was he, because I got to come home. I got to come home, and we had another son, Arius Keelian Tanner Thomas. I named Arius after my uncle who had died from, he accidentally shot himself in the head with a revolver when he was cleaning his gun, and nobody can explain it. It happened right in front of my mom and my grandma. It just changed their lives, you know?
Mhm.
And it was sad. And everybody just changed from there. No more family events, no more anything. Even on my grandma's side, I couldn't go to family events because they never invited me and never wanted me to come.
Wow.
Is from my uncle George Patterson. He lives in Hurst, Texas, and I always missed out on them because they never let me go. And I always wondered why. Was it because I had gotten in trouble before and they were embarrassed of me, or what was it?
Mhm.
They spoiled me to a point of lowercase t. Not a capital T though, but a lowercase t. But I was grateful for everything. But something changed in them before I could come back, because when I was in Oklahoma, my grandma came to see me twice. I had my own apartment and everything. My uncle seen me 3 times. My dad seen me 4 to 5 times.
Wow.
But I was all alone up there, and so I had another child, and the states took her away from me. Her name was Staria. Staria Cheyenne Blessing Thomas, and she was my little blessing. She was a pretty little baby. All I wanted was my kids to be safe at all times. I had started noticing that my grandma and her friend named Fallon Hampton were doing some weird things together. I don't know, but it just didn't seem right. And I had came across multiple situations where I felt like God was guiding me to these situations. And I would call the police to make reports, and these reports would just go unsaid. They would never do anything. So I felt like there was something going on inside the system that would be corrupt. The system's already corrupt as it is, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. And I didn't know what to do. I don't know what to do in a world that is controlled by people that control us. We don't have no say-so. We don't have no protection against that. God just can't come down and shine light and say, undo or back off. We have to fight with our souls ourselves. We have to fight with our heart. We have to fight for our right. We have to fight for our family. And that's what I did, is I fought for my family. They tried to keep me from my sons for so long. Excuse me, sorry.
It's okay.
When I figured out that there was some kind of happenings with magic, and people are gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, but magic is real. It's out there. There's dark magic, there's light magic, there's magic that is forbidden, and then there's a thing called a skeleton key. The skeleton key is what transfers souls over to a different body, a host, a vessel. That's why our temple is called our body. They transfer and corrupt our temples. And it has to do with Nigeria. It has to do with Nigeria. It does not have to do with Africa. It has nothing to do with Africa, but it has to do with Nigeria. And as I was asked my grandma, she would always act weird and do some weird things and act like she was confused and just waste time, and people just wasted time, and they just made messes every time that I got closer and closer and closer to solving these things. And I wanted for my son to be okay, because I noticed that because Fallon had a child named Junior, 1-year-old, 2-year-old maybe, little bitty child, and he was black. See, I'm everything, so I know the difference between my child and somebody else's child, especially if a different whole race. And I noticed that because the day before yesterday, we were walking, me and Rocky Tilo Carter Thomas. We were walking endlessly because nobody would help us. There was one lady that helped us. There's this Mexican lady that helped us. That drove us all the way from North 10th all the way over to Ambler and the Walmart area. Dropped us off, and God bless her soul because he was tired. So was I. And I told him, let's go get something to eat. Well, I'll get you something to eat. So I went to Walmart and got stuff to eat and drink and clothed him because it was pouring down rain that night, or that morning. And I got him some new pants and everything. But as we walked out the Walmart, I changed them and we walked around the parking lot because we didn't have nowhere to go. And I didn't want him just sitting. And there was a couple that gave us some food from, she had food stamps and she gave us food. Bought us food at the 7-Eleven right there where the Greyhound bus station is. God bless them too. They're very good people. He had wet his pants and not even told me. He had peed his pants and did not even tell me. Did not even tell me. And when I turned around to look at him, I seen the spot. I said, did you pee your pants? He says, I don't know. So that automatically told me that because my son's 11 years old almost. He is 10, about to turn 11. And he knows how to use the bathroom. He knows how to tell me how to use the bathroom. He told me right there when he said, I don't know, that something was wrong. Something was wrong with him. And even the parents would tell you that there was something wrong. Grandma asked, what are you doing to my son? What are you doing to my son? I know you're doing something. And she would always make me out to be crazy or some kind of drug. I could pass the drug test impermanently. I gave up drugs. I gave up drugs when I crossed town. I gave up drugs when I came back to be with my kids. And so when I told her about the skeleton key, her eyes lit up like this. Like she was surprised to hear about it. That somebody actually knew. Nobody knew what was going on in the world because everybody was made to be look crazy. In the beginning of time, they say, God is the light, and He is. And that's why I read the Bible every day. I read the Bible, and every time I open the page, you open a page randomly, and I don't know if you do that. Do you ever just open the page and then it relates to something that's going on in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just didn't know what to do. Because when we were playing, did you get mine? Okay. When we were playing the night that everything happened, I was happy as could be. Me and my son were just fighting off all the spirits together. Because it runs in the bloodline. The purity of the light runs in the bloodline. That's my freaking son. He always said, Daddy, I always want to go with you. I don't want to go nowhere else. Just with you, Daddy. I wanted to change the history's course of my family. I don't even know if that was my real family. And that's how deep this goes, to the roots, deeper than deep. Because in my course of investigation, it says that they have to find families of royalty or royal bloodline to after my grandma had called him and said, "Hey, Pinky, Pinky." We always called him Tilo. My grandma always called him Tilo, but she started calling him Pinky recently. I don't know why, but we always call him Tilo. Little Tilo man, little Tilo tough man. She had called him into the room, and I was still in the room, either playing on my laptop or cleaning it because it was always a mess because there was not enough room in that area in the whole apartment because we had two little nieces, my son, and then my son Arius. When they came over, me, my grandma, and that's it. And when I had called him, or she called him into the living room, and it was not even like 20 seconds, maybe. He had came back acting different, just acting like a child, like a big toddler. And then I asked her because there's such thing as a magical artifact that help reverse these things or help you contain these things into. I don't know how to explain it because people don't know. They just don't know. This is all spiritual about everything because it has to do with our spirits. I asked her what'd she do to him, and she automatically says she didn't know what I was talking about. She didn't know what I was talking about. She didn't know what I was talking about. And we got to an argument saying, "I know what you did to my son. I know. That's my son. Okay?" And now she starts yelling at me. I start yelling at her. I told her we're going to leave, and she says, "No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to leave." I told her, "Yes, we are." So I went back into the room and started packing her things. I went back into the room, gathered up my things. I left everything that wasn't important. We just needed to change clothes. We just needed a change of clothes, his medicine, and whatever little bit of money I had that they let me keep. Because they always put me down into a situation where I had to pay out every dollar that I had. Every dollar that I had. I never could get a car. I could never get my own place. I could never get nothing. And I always wondered why. I always wondered why. I always wondered why the police would never do nothing. I always wondered why about everything. Everything was a mystery to me. And I know it's a mystery to the world. I know it is. Because I'm going to stop right here at that part right here. I'm going to go back to when I was working with my dad, my so-called dad. I was working with my dad in Cedar Hill. Well, it's a sign company in Euless, Texas. It's called Sign Company, Sign Erection Company. It's a funny name, I know. And I loved my job. I was making $18 an hour. I loved my job welding. And it was easy. We rode all over the place. We stayed at motels, and me and my dad hung out. Me and my dad but something changed in him every morning. It was like always before 6. At 6 o'clock, everything would change. One morning, he had woke me up. And it was this happened in a reoccurrence of a couple times, but not as bad as what I'm about to tell you. He had woke me up, and, if you get woken up after being tired, how you're a little bit cranky. I know you could get cranky too, huh? Yeah. Like, well, what do you want? I'm trying to sleep, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And I was like that. I was like, what? What do you want? He's like, it's time to get up for work. And I was like, okay. I turned into that teenager from high school that don't want to go to school. Yeah. And to me about my soda cans being on the table, and they were just soda cans. Yeah, I told him I'm not dealing with none of this anymore. You're abusive. Your verbal abusiveness, your physical abusiveness. Whenever you get pissed off at me for some little stuff, and I try to blow it off, and you get even more pissed. He pulled a gun on me that day. I called the cops. I called the cops to make sure that I could get out safely, because when he pulled that gun, I knew he was, because I heard it. I heard the gun cock. He thought I was pulling a knife on him. No, I take a knife with me to work. Most men do, because we have to cut bundles open and stuff. I was putting my knife in my pocket, and he says, "Oh, you want to pull a knife on me?" And I say, "I'm not pulling no knife on you." Oh, and he says, "I got something for you." He runs off to his room. I hear a gun cock, and then I close the door, lock it, call the cops to make sure that I can get out safely. The cops show up. They come talk to me. They ask me about everything, and I told him. I told them everything, and my dad's a felon, and I told them about the gun and everything, and they just kind of, you know, the Mexican cop made sure that I got out safe, and the white cop was just like, well, do you have anywhere to go? Because I can't leave you in this situation. Well, I can't leave you here because your dad, which his name is Joel Laundre Thomas.
Okay.
Remember, mine is Joel Laundre Rakesh Thomas.
Yes.
And now I walk to. They let me go to Walmart. I walked to Walmart to put money on my card to try to get a lift to the bus station or something. And it's let me remind you that it was like 6 going on to the 7th hour in the morning. So the 7th hour in the morning, I get there about 7:12 from at that Walmart because I walked. It was about a half a mile up the street. And when I talked to the lady about putting money on my card, they said they didn't do it. They didn't over till 8, and I just really won't wait till then. So I asked my dad's girlfriend Goldie if I could stay there until my grandma got there, because I called my grandma to come pick me up, and I love my grandma very much. She raised me. She always stuck up for me. She did everything for me when I was a baby. God damn it. Sorry. She came and got me, and I drove back. And she was always telling me not to drive fast, so I would just drive a little bit over the speed limit just to get, just to make her that little bit mad. Because it's, you wanted me to drive, so let me drive. And I make music. I make music. My name's Rockstar. Out there, people know me as Rocky Rockstar, but that's not my real name. My name's Joel Laundre Rakesh Thomas, and that's where we got Rocky from. They wanted me to name my son after me as Joel Thomas, my dad and my grandma, and I told him I didn't want to because I just didn't feel that it was right, so I named him Rocky Tilo Carter Thomas. And from there, that's where my life began with that little boy right there, And that's my son. I have other children, and I have another firstborn son. I have 2 other children.
So how many do you have in total?
Huh?
How many do you have in total?
In total supposedly 7.
7. Okay.
Hmm.
So your
Yeah.
son was with you when on that Monday at your grandmother's house. The 10-year-old.
Yes. Yes, my son was with me and we were playing. We had just got done because Arius was with us too that day, and we had got done going to the mall to go to the arcade, but they had closed it. It was they close at 7 now, which is ridiculous. So instead instead of going to the arcade since it was closed, we turn around and go on the other side and just go to Chuck E. Cheese. And we were having so much fun. They were racing on the little Batman thing, and then they were playing on the skee ball. They were playing basketball. And the little one that drops the coin, and I didn't know they even had those cards to where you scan the cards now and you pay by time instead of by coins. Everything changes. Everything. It's crazy. But we were playing. We played for like an hour, and I love my kids to death. So of course I'm gonna spend all my money on them to see them happy. What parent wouldn't that doesn't get to spend time with their kids? That's all I ever wanted was my kids. So from there, after we go to Chuck E. Cheese, I'll call my grandma to come pick us up. And she always treated Arius different. Always. Always. And it almost led me to treat my son different. I didn't ever want to leave him out of it, but he didn't like coming over to my grandma's because she always treated him different. Always. So I called my girl to come pick us up. And when she picked us up, he started crying, saying that he wants to go home. He wanted to go home to his Nana's. And I said, why? It made me feel bad. It made me feel like I was the reason. Like I was. And he says, I don't know. I just don't like it here. And I was like, why? We can watch movies. We can do whatever you want. He says, no, I want to go home to Nana's. Oh, Grandma's mean to me. I told him, son, I love you. You can stay a little bit, but no, he had already done called um, my baby mama's boyfriend's girlfriend, and her name's Jessica. He had already called her to come pick him up that night. And so, when she got close, she had called, and we walked outside the apartment to meet her, and she had seen me, but it looked like she had seen somebody that lived upstairs in like apartment 213 or 14, something like that, 212. But for one, she showed recognition of knowing that person, or for some reason, and she's like, I think I know that guy, and I was like, okay, what does that have to do with me? You know, but she had showed recognition because a lot of things were happening that were weird up there, and like I said, we need a whole different time, a whole lot of time to tell the story. But let me own up to all where it came up to the point where it was me, my grandma.
Okay.
When I told my grandma that I was gonna leave, she got infuriated. When I told my grandma that, I packed my son's bag, my bag, which only had a backpack, a little small backpack, and he had a backpack and a suitcase, a Star Wars suitcase, and a Spider-Man backpack because he loves Spider-Man. And I told him to get your stuff, we're leaving. The first time I was gonna walk out by myself because she said, you're not felt like that was right. So when I had told my son that we're leaving, we're gonna go somewhere and stay the night. It was like 12 o'clock like in the morning, like 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. So I asked her where all my artifacts were, and she says, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, where's the rest of my money? She says, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, what did you do to my son? She says, you're acting crazy. What are you doing talking about? I said, what did you do to my son? What did you do to my son? And she would not tell me. She would not tell me. So as she tries to get up towards me, I take the microphone stand that was in my hand and I act like I was going to hit her. And then she started screaming at me even more because she flinched and went like that. I told her, tell me what you fucking did to my son. Excuse my language.
Okay.
And she says, you're effing crazy. And I says, no, I'm not. I know what's going on. And from there,
Okay, so my mother-in-law talked to the supervisor last night, and they said
the story continues.
Do I hear the continuation or?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the grand total?
But I would like to have an attorney present.
That's understandable. What do you want people to know about you? What do you want to tell your son?
If I could tell my son anything, I want to tell him that there's nothing in the world that he has to be afraid of. When he's got God, keep God close. Always read the Bible. Always pray. Because God really does exist. If the devil exists, definitely so does God. If I could tell him anything, I would tell him to protect his brother. To always protect his brother because I love both of them. Always look up. You can't see where you're going when you're always looking down.
Yes, I'm here.
Don't be afraid to cry. Anybody that doesn't have human emotion. And I told him, if I could tell him anything else,
Can you explain to me?
that Daddy's always with you and he loves you. He loves you very much. He loves Arius. And y'all stick together through thick and thin, dark and light, everywhere. And if you find love, don't be afraid to be hurt by it. Because that's what shapes us and helps us mold.
So we can't pay.
And that's what creates our bigger hearts that we get. Because we're supposed to love everybody, not just one person. We're supposed to love everybody.
My question is,
How many, if you don't mind me asking, how many people were present at the house, at the apartment complex on that Monday? Was it just
The
your,
whole complex.
well, inside of your apartment, your grandma's
Inside is just me, my grandma, my son, and my two nieces.
two nieces? Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to say or mention? I know you're sitting in here, like, what's going through your head right now?
How crazy this is that people can be just put away and silenced because of their knowledge, because of their incorruption to corruption. How much people sacrifice that's not even necessary because of what they want, because of their greed, their selfishnesses, their incoherences, their whatever, you know. There's lots of people out there that are evil. They're evil costumes saying that they're either preachers or police officers or whatever. It's the people that we think that are the safest that are really the most dangerous. And it's the ones that seem the most dangerous that are really the most safest.
So I know you plan on getting an attorney soon. Like, what's next? What do you have looking forward right now?
Well, I don't have anybody. I really don't. That's what led me to see all this stuff. I don't have nobody. I've never had like a solid, stable family to back me up on things. This is the only family. This is the only family on my side that had any resources to even help me. And why would I just go and fuck something like that up? Or just go and purposely throw it all away? Why would I do that? Why would I? This is the only family that I know. This is the only family that I know.
How much did you love your grandmother?
I love my grandma very much. I love my fucking grandma very much. She raised me from a baby. She raised me. She said she took me from the hospital. Now, if she took me from the hospital, you add it together. My birthday's 6/30/89. I don't know who I am.
Wow. I know you probably have a lot going through your head right now, but what's playing back? Do you wish you did anything different, or?
Planning back, if I would do anything different,
Mm-hmm.
I would have stayed a long time ago. I would have treated my baby mama a lot different. My first baby mama, Casey Dole. I was madly in love with her. I would have done everything different then. I would have tried my hardest to stay with her, to raise that family, to be that family that I always wanted. And then we would have that family that I always wanted. And then I would have done nothing else different. Just be happy with her and my 2 kids.
Is there anything else you want to mention or say to let people know what's going on?
Yes. If you love your child as much as I love mine, don't ever lose sight of them. Don't let them go with strangers. Don't let them go to people's houses that you don't know unless you've actually interviewed those people as people to know who and what they are about. Because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what kind of stuff they're into. You don't know anything about what's going on with people in this world. So stick by their side to protect them. Protect them strong with all your might and all your love. And give God the will. Let God take over the will. Because there's got to be people flaking on all the other stuff off that's trying to get at us. That's my son.
Did he ever mention anything about if your grandmother ever did anything, or
Yes.
why he felt so uncomfortable being around her?
Yes, he has. He has. He told me that one day we were walking to the park. We had walked to the park to play. I don't know why it was a specific park, but then I realized that my baby mama didn't live far from that park. And when I went to that park, a lot of weird stuff was happening, and I always carried my sons. My son always like playing with the, those toy guns that shoot the little rubber darts and everything.
Mhm.
Always carried that when we walked so we could play, because it said magic on it. And we would see these erratic, like clear waves, like heat waves. It looks like heat waves,
Yes.
but but these heat waves of shapes, but they were shapes like humanoid, but not human. It was weird. And when we would shoot the gun at that the heat wave would like dissipate, disappear.
Mhm.
So we always carried that with us. It made us feel safe. It made us feel safe. It was a gun that was orange and white, so we called it the white light gun. And I told him, if you ever feel like something's coming at you, just point this at him and shoot it. And he did. He always did. He says, Daddy, I feel safe with you. But I asked him one day, that day we were walking, because he started saying his ankle and his leg were hurt. I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? He says, my leg hurts. And when I looked at his leg, he had bruises all over his legs, like thumbprint bruises or fingerprint bruises, like somebody held him down on his legs or something. And I asked him, what did somebody do something to you? Did somebody do something to you? And he said no at first. He told me, no, Daddy, I'm fine. So I sat him down on the curb and told him, let me look at your leg. And there was an indentation on his leg where I pressed down. He said it hurts really bad. Really bad. And I asked him about it. And he didn't tell me. And I started mentioning names. Did Grandma hurt you? He says, he shook his head no at first, and then he looked at me, shook his head yes. I said, did Mama hurt you? He says, I don't know. So that automatically told me yes. And I said, what about Fallon, Grandma's friend? And he says, I don't like being around them. I want to stay with you, Daddy.